are these Cruising with Timmy videos anyway? Are they self-help videos? Are they funny? Are they comedy? What are these dumb things? I don't know what brought this to my attention, but I realized last night that it is 2018. It is also 18 years since I was 18. I was 18 in the year 2000. So now I guess you creepy internet trolls can figure out my age. And it just kind of hit me funny. I was thinking about those years late in high school, which has been on my mind a lot lately, as my son, Ben, is in the high school marching band. He had an opportunity to join it in 8th grade, something that had not been done locally where I live until this school year. And I thought about the years that I was in the marching band and things like that. And I thought about my high school job. And I thought, you know, that might make a good Cruising with Timmy to tell some of those stories about this store I worked at. It was called Mills Market. Mills Modern Markets, as some of the ads said. And I've got some stories. I wouldn't say I have a lot of stories. I never got robbed. I saw criminal activity. I didn't participate in it. I was a good kid, so I am a worthy role model. Okay, I don't know about that, but there were lots of shoplifters. You know, there were cigarettes at the end of the aisles. They weren't behind the counter back then, and the cashiers had to go unlock them usually. And I can't remember. It might have been that you could get a pack without them being unlocked. You couldn't get a carton or something like that. I don't know. Not exactly a smoker. And people would forever be stealing packages of cigarettes, or even the cashiers would get them out and they'd slip them in their pants. And I'm like, man, that's some sort of addiction right there if you gotta go and steal cigarettes. But I don't know. So I remember people being chased out the door, running down the streets, and we had these red aprons. All the guys had red aprons, and all the women working there had these white and red striped smocks. I'd never even heard the word smock before I worked there, but that's what they had. And it was an interesting place to work. I knew, even before I got my first job, which that was my first job, that I wanted to be a computer programmer. I probably had caught on that I wanted to do that around 10th grade, something like that, and that's what I wanted to do specifically. I was happy to work on computers in any way, and that is really how my career started. See all these videos turn back to my job, adulting. So at this grocery store, I was a bag boy. We were a full-service grocery store, and I remember the owners, it was family owned. I remember the owners of that store took great pride in the fact it was the last full-service grocery store in Bedford, Indiana, I believe, and their Mitchell location as well. So you could go shop, you would go to the cash register. One of us bag boys, we never had a bag woman. I guess we weren't as forward thinking in 1999 as we are today. That almost got political. And so we'd bag the groceries as people, you know, paid, and we'd carry them out. I'll tell you about Trigger. Let's tell you about Trigger. Trigger is a pretty good story. So there I was bagging groceries behind a cashier, and I felt like really good at bagging things in paper bags. We still use paper bags. You could do the paper or plastic question. Paper or plastic, and 90% of people chose plastic. Occasionally you'd have somebody dead set on paper bags. I would voluntarily use paper bags on people because clearly I didn't understand that I should be worried about what people want and not how I like to bag groceries. And I'd load these up, and man, here come this gray-headed fella. He was pretty quiet, and I'm bagging his groceries, and this is right toward the end of my high school career. I actually quit this store for about a month, then I came back in college because I realized I could commute to school cheaper than I could live up there 3 days a week in Indianapolis. I can't talk. And Trigger came in around that time, so it was April or May of 2000, and I bagged Trigger's groceries. You'll find out why it's called Trigger here in a second. In paper bags. And he comes in the register and goes, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have put those paper bags." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. You want me to put them in plastic?" "No, I'll take care of it." He goes to the end of the next register, which was closed, rips the paper bags in half and puts them back in plastic. And then he looks at me and he goes, "You ever do that again, I'll shoot you." Just dead serious. Dead serious. And I go, "What?" He goes, "I mean it, I'll shoot you." And then he turns around and leaves. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I told the front manager, and they're like, "Haha, yeah, that's pretty strange." Well, I quit about a week later anyway, as did about everyone else in high school. There were several people I worked with, Jared and Chris Yeski and Amanda. You were there. I'm sure you might watch this. And a few others. And in that time period that I was gone, all the rest of y'all quit too, except maybe Jared, but he wasn't there much longer. And well, maybe Chris wasn't there yet. I can't remember. Because we were all going to college and whatnot. But I came back June or July of that year and worked at the store again. But I basically quit over Trigger initially, and the fact I was leaving town, or so I thought. And I kid you not, I think I quit because the week that I left, they hired Trigger in the deli. Yeah, they hired Trigger. So I didn't know, was Trigger there to bake those Noble Romans pizzas, or was he there to kill me? Now, some of the other guys told me stories. There was this fellow named Jacob. Jacob, you know who you are. And he sat back in the break room and goes, "Yeah, that guy come back here," and he goes, "I made it, I'll kill you." I think he screwed with me. But that's a story of Trigger. There's some crazy people in Bedford. I said it like a native. I'm Bedford. In Bedford, there are some critically insane individuals. And Trigger's probably one of them. I wonder whatever happened to Trigger. I doubt I would recognize Trigger today. But on that, to this day, I still recognize people that shopped at the store. Sometimes at the police log. So, working with other teenagers there, that was not the worst job in the world for a first job. Oh man, the sun's shining. I hope it's not screwing up the video. I've never shot one of these on the way to work before. Last time I shot a Cruising with Timmy, I worked on a naval base here in Indiana, and you cannot have cameras there, so I had to do all of my source creation, video sources, while traveling outside of said base, and now my entire commute is outside of that base. Although it's a very similar commute, I have about a 30-minute commute. All great details I'm sure you're really concerned about, as well as the trash in my back seat. Sorry about that, hopefully you can't see that. What other Mills Market stories do I have? One time this fellow named Jason back in the meat shop, there was a frozen pound container of field pork brains in the big freezer, and I don't know why we had a container of field pork brains. We may have had a customer that enjoyed pork brains, because we had some special order meat stuff. People are pretty happy about the meat shop there. Other aspects of the store at this point in time, which was in its late 40, 50 years of operation, it closed in 2003. People weren't always so thrilled about, I guess. Now that it's gone, I hear people say, "Well, I don't like that Ruler grocery store there. It's not anything near as nice as Mills Market." But when I worked there, all I heard is how dirty Mills Market was. So make up your minds, people. Other people just like to complain. I know I do sometimes. Self-control. Self-control is your friend. So back to the pork brains. So Jason had a George Foreman grill back there, and this other fellow named Rod Longfellow. I wonder whatever happened to Rod. He was the meat department manager until the store closed. So for several years there, probably 4. He fried the pork brains and he took them up front and served them to the cashiers. He told them it was something else. I don't remember what. But he waited till they all had a few big gulps of it, and most of them thought it was pretty good. Then he told them what it was, and I've never seen on command vomiting until then, because I'm pretty sure some of those ladies had that ability. At least they did in that moment. I didn't try the pork brains because I knew what they were. I was in on the joke. I remember our Thanksgiving. The few years I worked there, I was there around Thanksgiving. I always liked working Thanksgiving. This is going to sound conceited, and perhaps it is, but I learned to be a cashier by watching other cashiers. I would watch how they operate the register, and I was already interested in, electronics and computers in particular by that time. I had always been interested in electronics ever since I was little, and I learned to be a cashier by watching them, and then they just let me pilot it. Of course, that's the same day that there was a test by the Lawrence County Health Department, or whoever it was, to test the store to make sure they're processing WIC vouchers right. I don't know if you know what WIC vouchers are. They're something issued to mothers and children in particular in need, where they can get essentials like milk and formula and things like that. And the WIC test came through my line the first day the store manager let me be on a register. I failed the WIC test. I got to go take the WIC training later that afternoon. That's about the only time they sent me on a trip, because I failed the WIC training. Look, I didn't know the WIC training. I thought I knew how to do this. I knew how to operate the cash register. What else you need to know? I think I got caught by a quick change artist once, where they're like, oh, I gave you a 20, you only gave me this much back, here, give me that much, and then they got me, I'm awfully trusting. I'm still trusting. So don't mess me over. Man, I got some other good Mills Market stories. There was a shoplifter. I heard this story secondhand, but I believe it's true. If it's exaggerated, I apologize. I don't remember who told me this. My best bud in high school, we're still friends, but we don't see each other really hardly ever. Hey, Esky, what's up? We had this shoplifter, and I guess it was right before I started a shift in high school. I'm going to say it was high school. It may have been afterward. And my buddy Abel worked there. He was a front end manager for a time. I don't know, he was in produce at some point as well, so I'm not sure what he was doing at this point. He was also the third shift manager. That store was open 24 hours when it was Mills Market. And supposedly, Chris, my buddy Chris Yeski, caught a guy with 2 cartons of cigarettes under his shirt. And he confronts him at the door, and the guy turns to run. There's a hat in the road back there. He turns to run away. Chris grabs him by the collar of his shirt, I guess screaming and hollering, and the dude runs out of his shirt. I don't know if it was a button-up shirt or what, and Chris tore it off his back. And I guess he takes off hauling through there, and one of the other carry-out boys went with him, maybe. So I imagine these guys in those red aprons, and they run across H Street there in Bedford, no, G, and Family Dollar was there, so it had already been built, and there was this hallway that went to the municipal parking lot. All that's still there today. And I guess he chased him through that, and at the time they had us parking in that municipal lot. When I was in high school, we parked where Family Dollar is now, because it was just a gravel lot where they torn a couple houses down around 1998. And it was, I'm so ADD, I can't tell a story. So the carryouts and Chris were chasing this guy through this hallway, and he pops out in this municipal lot, and I guess Abel, my buddy, is getting out of his car there, and I guess Chris goes, "Get him! Get him!" And he turns around, and he steps out to grab him, and the dude, I guess, just hooks Abel and punches him, knocks him down. So they keep running. I guess they run out, and they jump out where the Bedford Bible Bookstore used to be, which is 8th Street, just north of the post office. Jump out in the middle of traffic, and they're running, and I guess there's 4 or 5 store employees at this point chasing this guy on foot with the 2 cartons of cigarettes, and he runs into this apartment building up on 17th Street, up behind Bedford Office Supply, and they surround it and have the cops up there. I wish I had seen this. I hope it's not fake, because that's the greatest shoplifting story I've ever heard. Third shift was especially strange at the store. I didn't work it much, but that's when the real special people tended to come out, I think. And I heard a story of a guy trying to run the register without paying. Apparently the cashier grabbed him and busted his head off of the back of the bagging area. I heard stories of blood and such, but I'm not sure of the accuracy of that. It was a wild time. It was, we always had this ice cream freezer that would fail. You'd have to climb up this ladder to the roof and reset these things. And this big, it was a semi-trailer on the roof, literally. It said Hussman Porta-Pack on it. And it was a big refrigeration unit they put up there probably in the 70s or 80s. And you'd know the freezer was down by the temperature and how much ice cream was running out the bottom of it. So we'd go up and reset those and refreeze the ice cream. There's a reason Mills Market got a rep. Just saying. And my goodness, we'd reset that, and if we were lucky, it'd be all right. But climbing to the roof was a pretty regular occurrence. I remember one of those old boys that where the family worked there. He could go in the back room. He'd have the white meat cutter's apron on, big old guy, and he could pick up an entire pallet of paper towels, which, yeah, it's paper towels, but it's still got some weight to it. And instead of loading it, he could get up there and pick that whole pallet up, shrink wrapper, with the pallet wrap around it, and set it on the floor, all without losing his cigarette in his mouth. Smoking was very common in the back rooms of this store. As a matter of fact, I think smoking was allowed in the store. At least we didn't stop people that did it. I seem to recall there were no smoking signs. It was an adventure, man. It was some good fun for $5.50 an hour. I calculated it up recently, and it seems like I could make it would have taken me something like 6 years of working there full time to make what I made in 2017 or something like that. So the IT world is where I need to be. But there was a time I had the UPC for a carton of eggs memorized and a gallon of milk, because our scanners were a little iffy. So that's just a few of my war stories from Mills Modern Markets. So thanks for listening to me blab on about myself. I like to talk about myself, I'm not going to lie. If I can find somebody to listen. And if you watched the video to this point, then I guess you're bored. I don't know. Later!